Welcome back, Focus Learners. Let's get right into it. Today's explainer is a fascinating deep dive into one of the absolute most brilliant intersections of game design and philosophical commentary ever crafted. We're talking about Dark Souls, but, we're not just looking at its notoriously brutal difficulty today. Instead, we're setting up an investigation into how this masterpiece uses hidden mechanics, incredibly subtle item descriptions, and environmental storytelling to make a profound comment on real-world devotion and structural control. We're going to unpack the grand deception at the heart of the game's Golden City, and together, piece together a sprawling community mystery that spans across the entire trilogy. Okay, let's dive into this. When we talk about faith in Dark Souls, we literally have to start with Solaire of Astora. His famous catchphrase right here, it perfectly encapsulates pure, unadulterated religious devotion. I mean, think about it. In a crumbling, dying world where sanity is a precious, precious commodity, Solaire is relentlessly optimistic. He's driven entirely by his desire to find his own son. Game director Hidetaka Miyazaki deliberately created Solaire to represent total devotion in its absolute purest form. But in a universe this cynical, we really have to ask ourselves who or what is actually at the other end of that blind faith.
And that brings us to the central mystery I want to pose to you today. What happens when that beautiful, pure devotion Solaire exhibits is systematically weaponized by the very institutions demanding it? We are going to look at the story of a digital deity whose entire existence is designed from the ground up to lie to you, to flatter you, and ultimately, to use you. To really ground our explainer today, we need to look at a concept explored by academic James Turgoning in his thesis on the game. He defines fictive religion as the use of fictional religious constructs to meaningfully comment on the cultural operations of real-world religion. Dark Souls isn't just making some basic religion is good or religion is bad statement. No, by using aesthetics, architecture, and even the literal mechanics of violence, the game is deeply examining how religious systems operate culturally and politically to exert control. Nowhere is this structural control more evidence than when you finally arrive in Anor Londo. Think back to that moment. After hours of trudging through poison swamps and dark, oppressive ruins, you are suddenly lifted into a literal city of the gods, just bathed in perpetual magnificent sunlight. And waiting for you at the absolute pinnacle is Gwynevere, Princess of Sunlight. She's a giant, benevolent goddess who praises your strength, validates all your struggle, and hands you the ultimate holy relic, the Lord Vessel. She gives you a holy destiny. She tells you that you are the chosen undead meant to inherit the world's fire. It feels like the ultimate reward for your faith and perseverance, right? But there's a shocking twist hiding in plain sight. Literally, it just takes one thrown dagger, one accidental swing of a sword, dealing just one single point of damage, shatters this majestic goddess like fragile glass, revealing the grand illusion. The game presents this incredibly beautiful illusion of light, warmth, and divine purpose. But once it's shattered, you're thrust right into a harsh, cold reality. A dark, abandoned twilight city where the sun entirely vanishes from the sky. The game uses this brilliant piece of environmental storytelling to literally pull the rug out from under your faith. You haven't been talking to a goddess at all. You've been talking to a puppet manipulated by her younger, frail brother, the dark sun Gwyndolin, who is literally hiding down in the basement, desperately trying to maintain the appearance of divine authority. So the crucial point is, how were players actually meant to discover this? Because Dark Souls doesn't just hand you the lore in a neat little cutscene. It forces you to become an archaeologist. Players scouring the game's most hidden, dangerous areas found the Dark Moon Seance Ring deep in a pitch-black catacomb. And its description bluntly states that Gwyndolin is the only remaining deity in Anor Londo. This single sentence completely contradicts the giant sun goddess sitting up in the cathedral. It gave attentive players the exact breadcrumbs they needed to realize they were being completely conned. And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer depth of the game's deception. As the Reddit community heavily discussed over the years, even the equipment of the enemies gave this secret away. The Silver Knight Shield description explicitly mentions the knights stay behind to defend the illusory goddess. The truth was literally written on the shields of the enemies you are fighting, just hiding in your inventory screen the entire time. No way, right? But the game doesn't just treat this as a neat little magic trick. It treats uncovering the truth as the ultimate sin. As the Dark Moon Covenant ring states, unmasking these deities is tantamount to blasphemy. See, Gwyndolin has created a secret police force, the Blades of the Dark Moon, specifically to hunt down and punish any player who shatters the illusion. The institution creates the lie and then weaponizes the very concept of blasphemy to brutally silence anyone who dares to discover it.
When you actually break down Gwendolin's process here, it's incredibly cynical. Step 1, create a false idol to make players feel safe and validated. Step 2, form a protective covenant, literally handing out healing miracles to protect the lie. And Step 3, the ultimate grift. He uses the illusion to manipulate the Chosen Undead into taking the Lord Vessel and willingly sacrificing their own soul to the First Flame. It's an elaborate theological trap perfectly designed to trick you into burning yourself alive, just to keep the failing era of the gods limping along for a little bit longer.
Let's move forward a bit and see how this actually builds across the entire series. Because the real Gwynevere did exist. She just left long before we ever arrived. By condensing massive amounts of wiki data, we can actually trace her true movements. In Era 1, she completely abandons Anor Londo. In Era 2, we learn she married the Flame God Flann. Then by Dark Souls 3, she has become the revered Queen of Lothric, worshipped all over again as a symbol of bounty. But finally, after her new husband, King Osiros, goes completely mad trying to breed a perfect dragon heir, she just quietly disappears from history altogether. Which brings us to the ultimate fan investigation. If she vanished from Lothric just as the world was ending, where did she go? What really happened to the mother of Lothric? Well, Dark Souls 3 leaves an incredibly dark, subtle trail of clues that the community has obsessively pieced together over the years. Section 14, the Rosaria Mystery. Is the Mother of Rebirth actually the Princess of Sunlight? Deep inside the Cathedral of the Deep sits a mute, truly tragic figure known as Rosaria, the Mother of Rebirth. She's surrounded by these grotesque man-grubs and just rests behind massive iron gates. Now, on the surface, she seems like just another bizarre Covenant leader, but a massive Reddit theory suggests that this corrupted, silenced figure is actually our missing sun goddess.
And the mechanical evidence for this is absolutely staggering. You transpose Rosaria's soul, you literally get the bountiful sunlight miracle, a blessing explicitly granted by Gwynevere. When the NPC Leonhard steals her soul, where you have to go to retrieve it? You have to invade his world in the exact chamber in Anor Londo where Gwynevere's illusion sat. The physical location completely confirms the narrative tie. And of course, both figures share the core defining identity of Mother. Now, what's really interesting about this is the horrific implication of why she is in this state. Rosaria cannot speak because her tongue has been violently cut out. Lore investigators actually point to one of Gwynevere's heavenly children, the Dancer of the Boreal Valley. The theory posits that the Dancer, corrupted into a monstrous beast by the tyrant Pontiff Silivan, violently silenced her own mother. The beautiful, glowing goddess of the first game ends up a mute, tragic prisoner of the dark, betrayed by her own corrupted bloodline.
This horrifying fate brings us right back to Solaire and the game director's own meta-commentary on faith. Remember, Solaire's quest ends with him going mad, taken over by a glowing parasite in a dark, forgotten cavern. Yet Miyazaki stated, "I think that the happiest ending for him is to die by becoming the sun." In this universe, pure faith isn't rewarded with a golden palace in the clouds. It is rewarded with tragic, visceral, and deeply personal sacrifice. Whether you are Solaire driven mad by a parasite or Gwynevere silenced by her own daughter, devotion exacts a devastating toll. Which leaves us with this final thought. The overarching plot of Dark Souls is a cycle, right? Empires rise, leaders manipulate the faithful to burn themselves alive just to keep the lights on, and the world eventually turns to ash anyway. We really have to ask, does this cyclical linking of the fire, driven by the weaponization of constructed faith, mirror our own real-world cycles of power? How often do human institutions create beautiful, comforting illusions to secure our devotion and compliance? I want you to really think about that the next time you find yourself praising the sun. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and remember, always keep questioning the illusions in front of you.